Hey everyone! Before we dive in, please hit that subscribe button to join my channel and stay updated with more stories like this one. Her words cut through the melody, sharper than the polished silverware. Laughter filled the grand ballroom, but my table held only a stale roll. I offered a faint, weary smile. The USB tucked in my pocket weighed, heavier than any secret. I'm Abigail Foster, 35, a documentary filmmaker. My life's work is capturing others' truths because my own has always been overlooked. 60 guests clink glasses, my father basking in the glow of attention, blind to the darkness in his own home. I came prepared to shatter their facade, to dismantle the lies they'd woven. But watching him laugh, I froze. The truth rested in my palm, and for the first time, I questioned whether revealing it would also ruin him. Revenge can feel like mercy until you decide which to hold onto. Would you tear down your family to be heard or walk away? The truth was primed to erupt. I wasn't ready. Part 2, the unseen daughter. When people talk about family, they imagine warmth. Mine was always a chill. After my mother passed, my father remarried quickly. His new wife's smile was brittle as glass. She brought her daughter, and I became a footnote in my own life. She draped her child in silk, enrolled her in dance, called her joy. To me, she gave silence and a catalog of my flaws. At dinners, I was the ghost pouring water, the punchline no one caught. When I spoke, she'd tilt her head and ask, "Why do you make things difficult?" My father never stepped in, his gaze fixed on ledgers, not wounded hearts. I learned young, if you don't belong, you watch. At 16, I scraped together money from tutoring kids with real families to buy a used camera. I filmed everything, stray dogs, shadowed porches, faces that didn't belong. She called it a pastime. It became my lifeline, a place where no one could cut me off or tell me I didn't matter. When I left at 18, I didn't shed tears. I took my camera and the quiet I'd perfected. My stepsister got jewelry. I found purpose. Every film I made screamed, "I'm here." Years later, an email arrived. My father's 60th birthday. A cold RSVP link, no warmth, no "we miss you." I stared, recalling icy hallways, his study door always shut, my name never spoken. I nearly deleted it. But my work had taught me what childhood hadn't. You don't wait for visibility, you create it. So I accepted, not for their world, but for my voice. If they expected a silent daughter, they'd invited the wrong woman. I charged my gear, labeled drives, studied my steady hands. The cold had forged discipline. The lens gave me courage. Both would converge in Raleigh. Invisible children grow cameras. We learned to aim back. Part 3, secrets beneath the smiles. Sleep eluded me the week before the party. The city buzzed outside, but my apartment was too still. Emails, footage, deadlines. I drowned in work to avoid thinking about that RSVP. Then Ellen burst in, sketchbook in hand, her face spelling trouble. "You won't believe what I overheard," she said, flopping onto my couch. At a downtown cafe, she'd caught my stepsister on the phone, her voice hushed and cutting, the tone she used when she thought no one listened. "It's done, Kyle. Dad won't suspect a thing." Those words pierced me. Ellen didn't need to elaborate. I knew that scheming edge. My father's company was his legacy, built from nothing. Yet his wife and favored daughter were plotting to take it. We stayed up, digging. Ellen recalled a cloud folder from a project with my stepsister, who never changed her password. Inside were emails, scanned contracts, messages with a man named Kyle, and a draft agreement to transfer my father's shares to her. My chest tightened as I stared at the screen. This wasn't about money. It was betrayal, the kind that redefines every childhood memory and makes you wonder if love was ever real. Ellen leaned in. "You've got enough to ruin them," she said softly. "Maybe," I murmured. "But how do you expose decay without torching everything?" I saved it all to a USB drive, its weight heavier than it should have been, like holding proof of every ignored slight, every swallowed hurt. The next morning, I walked Raleigh streets with my camera bag, filming shop window reflections, fleeting faces, each reminding me truth has its own rhythm. At dawn, I stood by my window, light spilling across the floor. The air carried rain and coffee grounding me. My camera blinked red, capturing only silence, a silence louder than any confession I'd filmed. I packed my gear, the USB, a black dress like armor. The skyline blurred, not with sorrow but with resolve. At sunrise, I didn't waver. Ticket in hand, heart steady, I whispered to the empty room. This time, I'm telling my story. The silence wasn't frailty, it was fuel. Part 4. A truth shared quietly. The party gleamed like a polished lie, all chandeliers and practiced laughter, wealth and etiquette humming. I smiled, silent, my pulse matching the jazz band's rhythm. My father stood across the room, shaking hands, his gray suit crisp, his confidence untouched. Karen lingered near, her charm syrupy. Shannon followed, a gilded shadow who never earned her light. I stayed in the corners, my old instinct. But this time, I wasn't hiding, I was observing. As speeches started, I slipped through a side door, down a hall lined with portraits of men who crafted empires. I paused at his office. The door was ajar, the desk glowing under lamplight, his shrine. I placed the USB by his nameplate and waited. He found me moments later. Abby, he said softly, as if unsure I was real. Did Karen invite you? No, I replied. I came because you deserve the truth. His brow furrowed. About what? About their plan. I nudged the drive forward. She's transferring your shares to Shannon. It's all here, emails, contracts, everything. He stared at it, then at me, emotions flickering in his eyes. You're wrong, he said at first. She wouldn't. She would, I said quietly. She already has. Silence stretched. He sank into his chair, opened his laptop, and played the files. The room filled with voices, Shannon's laugh, Karen's cool orders, Kyle's careless boasts. Each word chipped away at the image he'd held of them. When it stopped, he didn't meet my gaze. Just whispered, "Dear God." The jazz seeped through the walls, faint, distant, surreal. Finally, he said, "You could have shamed us tonight. Why didn't you?" "I wasn't here to break you," I said. "I just wanted you to see me." His hand shook slightly. Then, to my shock, he reached across, resting his palm on mine. "I see you now," he said. Tears stung, not from hurt, but from release. Years of silence crumbling in one breath. He stood, hesitant, and for the first time since I was 5, he drew me into a clumsy, real hug. It wasn't flawless. It was true. He stepped back, eyes tired but softer. Outside, the music rose, laughter echoing as if nothing had shifted. But something had, something permanent. He turned back, voice low but firm. "You did right," he said. "Thank you." I nodded, speechless. For the first time, family didn't feel like a scar. Truth didn't need a stage, just courage. Part 5. Confrontation and Silent Justice. The next morning, the sunlight cut sharper, as if the city sensed the change. I met Dad at his office, but he wasn't in a suit. No tie, no pretense, just quiet determination. He said little on the drive home, except once at a stoplight. I thought love meant shielding people from pain. He stared ahead. Turns out it meant dodging the truth. At the house, Karen waited on the porch, coffee in hand, her smile staged. Flawless. Shannon stood beside her, arms folded, eyes guarded. "Gregory," Karen cooed. "You're early." Dad didn't respond, striding past, the front door swinging open like it knew this moment was coming. The house smelled of perfume and control. Everything perfect, everything false. He went to his study. Karen followed, her heels clicking like a countdown. I lingered by the doorway, close enough to listen, far enough to stay unseen. My familiar role. He placed the USB on the desk. "I watched it," he said quietly. Karen froze. "Watched what?" "The plan. The calls. The contracts." Her face paled. She opened her mouth, but he raised a hand. "Don't." His voice wasn't loud, but it carried the weight of love finally breaking. Shannon stepped forward. "Dad, we didn't mean you meant every word," he cut in, voice even. "You treated my trust like a bargaining chip." Karen tried again. "Gregory, she's twisting this." "She's my daughter," he said firmly, "and she just saved what's left of us." The silence was heavier than any shout. Karen's facade cracked, her lips quivering as tears came. Not from sorrow, but exposure. Dad opened a drawer, sliding 2 envelopes across the desk. Divorce papers and a notice to leave. You'll both need to go. Shannon's voice broke. You're picking her over us? No, he said softly. I'm picking truth. Karen's eyes flicked to me. Sharp, desperate, the same eyes that once diminished me. I didn't flinch. Not this time. Dad walked past, pausing at the doorway. Abby, let's go. And just like that, their empire of deceit collapsed soundlessly. Outside, the wind carried pine and dust. We drove in silence, the road stretching under amber light. After a while, Dad spoke, almost to himself. Peace feels odd, he said, like something we forgot we deserved. I gazed out the window, the sun low and gentle. For once, I didn't need words. Justice doesn't always shout. Sometimes it just walks away. Part 6, Rebuilding and Peace in Silence. 3 months later, the house was sold, emptied of everything but memories. Dad and I moved forward separately, yet closer than ever. He rented a small lakeside place where mornings smelled of pine and the air felt pure. I'd visit and we'd sit on the porch, words sparse, watching water lap the dock. Our old silences were heavy. Now they felt like calm. He'd brew coffee in the same chipped mug daily. When I teased him, he'd give a soft, open smile I never saw as a child. One afternoon, as the sun sank, he said, I watched your film again. I looked up, surprised. He nodded. It stung, he admitted, but I'm proud you had the guts to tell the truth. I wish I had been that brave years ago. His words warmed my chest like sunlight through frost. I realized something then. I'd spent years chasing a love that demanded silence. Now I knew real love listens, even when truth hurts. I kept making films, not about others anymore, but about voices like mine. Daughters who spoke up, quiet rebellions born from pain. My first premiered in a small downtown theater. When the credits rolled, the crowd stood, clapping not for the craft, but the message. Somewhere in the audience, I saw Dad wipe his eyes. After, he hugged me, no big words, just a quiet embrace that said everything. As months passed, I rebuilt more than my work. I rebuilt myself. The girl who filmed shadows to feel seen now stood in the light. Raleigh felt new, not smaller or colder, but honest. I drive by the old estate, its gates tangled with ivy. For the first time, I felt no anger, only freedom. I stopped asking why they hurt me. Some mistake control for love. Some of us spend years unlearning it. Healing isn't erasing the past, it's stepping out of it, barefoot, free. As I packed my camera for my next project, I made a quiet vow. Never trade your voice for belonging again. Truth is the only legacy worth keeping. If you've ever had to escape your family's shadow, share your story below. Someone needs to know they're not alone.